Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayapataka Swami.
The following is a class given by His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj on September 3rd, 1982 at Murari Sevak Farm in Mulberry, Tennessee. The class begins with a reading from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 8, Text 42.
Aham mamasa poteresha me suto Brajeshwarasya kila vittapasati Gopyascha gopahasa godhanascha me Yanamaya ye tankumati same goti Aham mamasa poteresha me suto Brajeshwarasya kila vittapasati Gopyascha gopasaha godhanascha me Yanamaya ye tankumati same goti It is by the influence, this is Mother Yasoda speaking, it is by the influence of the Supreme Lord's Maya that I am wrongly thinking that Nanda Maharaja is my husband, that Krishna is my son, and that because I am the queen of Nanda Maharaj, all the wealth of cows and calves are my possessions, and all the cowherd men and their wives are my subjects. Actually, I also am eternally subordinate to the Supreme Lord. He is my ultimate shelter. Translation with repetition, please, by Srila Prabhupada. It is by the influence of the Supreme Lord's Maya.
By
Srila Prabhupada. Following in the footsteps of Mother Yasoda, everyone should follow this mentality of renunciation. Whatever wealth, opulence, or whatever else we may possess belongs not to us, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate shelter of everyone, and the ultimate owner of everything, as stated by the Lord Himself in Bhagavad Gita 5:29. Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhidang Sarvabhutanam Gyadva Mang Santing Richati. Translation. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. We should not be proud of our possessions, as expressed by Mother Yasoda herein. Quote, I am not the owner of possessions, the opulent wife of Nanda Maharaja. The estate, the possessions, the cows and calves, and the subjects like the gopis and the cowherd men are all given to me. One should give up thinking of my possessions, my husband, my son. Janasya moho yang ahang mameti. Nothing belongs to anyone but the Supreme Lord. Only because of illusion do we wrongly think I am existing, or everything belongs to me. Thus, Mother Yasoda completely surrendered unto the Supreme Lord. For the moment, she was rather disappointed, thinking my endeavors to protect my son by charity and other auspicious activities are useless. The Supreme Lord has given me many things, but unless He takes charge of everything, there is no assurance of protection. I must therefore ultimately seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated by Prahlad Maharaj in the Bhagavatam 7:9, 19th verse, Balasya neha saranang pitaro nasingha. A father and mother cannot ultimately take care of their children. Ato grihaksheta sutapta vitar chanasya mohoyang ahang mameti. Bhagavatam 5:5-8. One's land, home, wealth, and all one's possessions belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although we wrongly think, I am this, and these things are mine. Thus in the purport, Bhaktivedanta purport to text 42, chapter 8 of the 10th canto of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, on the Lord Krishna shows the universal form. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki Jai, Hitai Gaura Chandra ki Jai. So today, Mother Yasoda is understanding the truth about existence. But because she's such an exalted devotee, Yoga Maya, or internal potency of Krishna, again puts her into that relationship with Krishna. And she forgets. Her forgetfulness and our forgetfulness are different. We forget out of Maya, external energy, material energy. We start to think, this is mine, this is my wife, this is my mother, this is my son, this is my daughter, this is my... And then we start to serve our possessions, so-called possessions. And we forget that ultimately we are loaned everything by Krishna. And at any moment He can take us or those things away. Where is the question of possessing? So actually one should realize that the Lord Himself is the sole possessor. We are simply caretakers at best. So, Srila Prabhupada, he sometimes gave the example that a parent may think that I'll protect my son or daughter, but we may take them to the hospital when they're sick, but there's no assurance that we'll be able to actually help them. Even the doctor, he cannot assure that he's going to help. There was like a John Wayne type famous hero of the screen in Bengal. I think I might have told this before. He suddenly got some disease, and he called his doctor, and the doctor came and said, actually your condition is extremely critical. In fact, I don't see any hope for you. So he grabbed his doctor's hand and he said, Doctor, doctor! He was a friend, so he used to call him by his first name, Sudhir. You are like my brother. Now save me, I want to live. Then as he's saying that, grabbing his doctor's hand, he breathed his last. So because he was such a famous person, the newspaper men came. We're all there. They asked the doctor, so doctor, while your patient was grabbing you by the arm and he died, now what do you feel about that? And what do you have to say? Isn't this embarrassing for you? These newspaper men is something else. So the doctor said, well, actually, this isn't the first time. Many times he had close calls and he grabbed me, requested me to help him, and every time I helped him. It was only this one time I failed. So of course, this reminds me that there's a type of competition between the worshippers of Shakti, of nature. There's a special nature worship sect in India where they worship the deity of the material energy, the material nature. And although the devotees of the Supreme Lord also respect the material nature as being a very confidential servitor of the Supreme Lord, where they always are trying to establish that she's actually independent and she's at equal or greater status than Krishna. Generally speaking, those persons who are demoniacally motivated, they prefer this idea because Krishna, he doesn't give any boon. He only gives a boon which is ultimately good for his devotee. But because the material nature, Mother Durga, is habituated to giving anything that her devotee asks for, if she's satisfied, if she wants to. So if they ask even for some incredible power, just like Lord Shiva, one devotee asked one time for the power that anybody's head he touches, that the head will disappear. So obviously that's not going to do much good for anybody unless they wanted to have their head disappear. And most people don't. So, but still he gave that boon, while Krishna generally wouldn't give such a boon unless it was ultimately going to be good for a person or for his purpose. So these devotees of Mother Durga, we were having an argument, and they were saying that actually Rama is not the real hero of the Ramayana. Their proposal is actually Ravana is the hero. He worshipped Durga. So how is Ravana the hero? He was killed by Ram. He was a demon. He said, yes, but look at, first of all, he had conquered all the kings. Then he even stole Rama's wife. He held back Rama in so many battles. It was only one time that he was defeated. Of course, that one time was the fatal blow. It's like in was it boxing or something? You can technically win in every round, but then in the 10th round, if he knocks you out, that means you lost the match. So actually, Krishna, he sometimes plays when he comes down, and he allows these demons to survive over a few tests. But ultimately, he's always victorious in subduing the demoniac, atheistic influences. So, like this, the demons, they always are liking to think that they're actually in charge, they're on top, they're controlling. This controlling aspect is very powerful in the material world. Therefore, even the other processes of spiritual realization, where to some extent one can still maintain that type of controlling superiority complex, are considered to be less advanced because they're still filled with the contamination of material influence. Therefore, the practitioners are somewhat more or less, depending on their particular situation, they're also filled with anxieties. One is practicing fruitive activities, is fully in the enjoying spirit, that I'll work and I'll get the fruit of my labor. I'll enjoy that. Then a secondary stage, one feels that, well, I'll going to figure out what is the difference between matter and spirit. Who I am, I'm going to figure it out with my brain. I'm going to think and meditate and find it out. And then when I realize my spiritual nature, by this thought process, by this mental speculation, or by my study of the Vedas, then I'll be God. then I'll be realized. So there also, you see, it's everything, I'm going to do this and I'm going to. The yogis, by controlling their breathing, by doing yoga asanas, the mystic yogis, they also have this idea, I'm going to control now my senses, I'm going to control my breathing, I'm going to control the mind, I'm going to stop the process of thinking, going to samadhi. Like this they have their, everything is based upon their own personal endeavor. You see, therefore Lord Chaitanya said, Mukti Bhukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Oshanta. But the devotees, the bhakti yogis, the yogis of devotion, they actually surrender to the Lord. They understand that ultimately all thinking, willing, feeling, prowess can ultimately be successful only if He grants His permission. Therefore, this idea of personal potency being the driving and deciding factor is given up by the devotees. They realize that that desire to achieve is only one aspect. Ultimately, the Lord's favor, His blessing has to also be there. So, and that is actually the deciding issue. So therefore the devotee becomes peaceful when realizing that simply if I perform my service to Krishna, dependent on His mercy, by His mercy I'll be successful and He'll never allow me to go astray if I simply rely upon Him. So actually, this controlling spirit is a type of masculine spirit. That's why in the spiritual realm is described that although many devotees some have male forms and some have apparently female forms, but in a sense, everyone is prakriti, or enjoyed. Except for Krishna, He's the only enjoyer. So in that sense of enjoyed and enjoyer, the Krishna is the only male, and everyone else is female. In the sense that the definition of the female being enjoyed. Although some are having male bodies and some are having female, not bodies but forms, male and female forms depending on their service. Some may be the father of Krishna, may be his friend, but they're all his friend, his father, having these different relationships for his enjoyment. Therefore, in that sense, he's the only enjoyer and everyone else is enjoyed. You see. So in this material world, everyone is sick. They're mentally diseased, spiritually diseased. Because in this world, everyone, whether in a male body or in a female body, they want to be the enjoyer. They want to enjoy everything. Therefore, even though the female may sometimes accept some subordinate role, but ultimately all the calculations are whether in the ultimate issue that person will get the things that they want to enjoy. If they get the objects of their enjoyment, then they're satisfied. If they don't get the objects of their enjoyment, they're dissatisfied. So the actual serving mood is at best superficial. Nowadays, the feminist movement has revealed the real nature that's underlying the little bit of serving mood that was showing there. They have discarded with that and then just kept out the raw enjoying mood that we can enjoy just like the men. You see, showing the raw materialistic mentality of simply enjoying. That was the one advantage that the women had in spiritual life, was that they had a serving mood. So even though underlying was enjoying motive possibly, but because of their subordinate, humble attitude, which was shyness, which is ingrown in women naturally by nature, they're able to bow down before God to That's why you see most of the churches, the women are going more. Most of the temples, women are going more, even in India. You find that generally women are coming more, they're more humble, they can come before God. Sometimes men are too proud, they don't want to bow down to anyone, even God. So, of course, even now that's being, whatever advantage the women had in that regard, there's also a movement to destroy that. Everyone should be equal enjoyers. But this is the complete opposite of spiritual life. You see. In fact, like Maharaja Prataparudra, Gajapati, the king of Orissa, when he became a devotee of Lord Chaitanya, which is, of course, Lord Chaitanya's movement is the pure devotional movement. Everyone takes on the enjoyed. That my whole purpose is to be enjoyed by God. Whatever I do should be for His pleasure. Nothing should be for my personal sense gratification, for my personal motive. Everything I do should be for His pleasure. If He's pleased spiritually, because I'm part of Him, I should accept that internal pleasure as my real pleasure. The external happiness coming from senses, I should not take that as my objective. So Maharaj Prataparudra, he took that attitude. So then sometimes some of the campaigns to defeat other kingdoms, he didn't undertake, he didn't think, well, it's not particularly pleasing to Krishna, it's an unnecessary risk or something. For some reason, because he became a devotee of Lord Chaitanya, they criticized that, well, now you've become less masculine, or now you've become less warring, violent, therefore you're not a suitable king. And so other kings tried to attack him. They thought, well, now he's a devotee of Lord Chaitanya. That means that he'll become more non-violent, less aggressive. But no one was able to defeat Maharaj Prataparudra. So he kept his kingdom intact. In fact, through the whole Mughal attack of India, Orissa was the only place which, am I correct? Orissa was never taken over by the Mughals. No, never. Everywhere else, the Mohammedan attackers from Arabia and Persia, the barbarians, they came in and for some period or other they were able to rule, except for Orissa and maybe a few other isolated places. They were not able to gain power there. So, actually, there's a whole change of mentality. That's why we say Krishna consciousness, the external change is not so important. What's important is the internal change. Everyone in the material world is here because we are trying to usurp God's position. There's a spiritual world where everyone is in harmony with God. Everyone's happy because they just accept you are the in charge. You are everything. We are only subordinate to you. Therefore, He is the one controller and everyone else is happy to be controlled. And there's a perfect relationship and everyone is happy. Therefore, that place is called Vaikuntha. No anxiety, no problem. But this world are for the renegades. Everyone has to be in that position willingly. If you want to not subordinate yourself to God, then you're placed in this world where you can act as a criminal and you can try to be yourself like a mini God. Now you can increase your controlling propensity up to the maximum. You can actually become the controller of the whole universe. You can become the king of the whole heavenly kingdom like Indra, or you can become a controller like Brahma. But the higher you want to go, ultimately then again you have to also at least give some superficial subordination to God. That I want to control, but under your ultimate supervision and under your direction, along with your plan. They offer some homage to God just to get up to that position. Ultimately, the purely demonic people who simply want to lord it over and don't want to follow God's law at all, Krishna's law at all, they can't achieve that supreme position. At best, they can only achieve for a very short time before they're removed. Because a demon who doesn't respect Krishna at all, he doesn't respect Krishna's parts and parcels, all the living entities. And so what happens is they're able to commit so much violence on others. They can slaughter animals, they can slaughter humans, they can kill without any sense, whatever they need to gain their objective of power of control. You see, sometimes they'll amass together as a country, and whatever is good for their country's interest, those demons, they can crush anyone else without a second thought, for the interest of they and their subjects of their country. You see, so these are all type of demonic influence. You see, we have seen that same in the history of the Vedas, some demons, they would take power of kingdoms, they would take power of planets, they would take power of solar systems. In the Vedas, they have whole history of solar systems where certain demons would take power of an entire solar system, or practically of the major part of the universe. And there would be intergalactic battles. All these things are there in the Vedas. How people would travel from different planets, how even sometimes residents of this planet would be conscripted, would be requested to fight on behalf of the good forces of the higher demigods against the demons of other planets. And that while this fight is going on, finally when the demons are defeated, those kings from this earth would come back here and find that because they were in the higher planetary systems, their longevity had increased. That a whole different time period was going on, that here their wife and children, the fact their whole kingdoms had already gone under, thousands and hundreds of thousands of years had gone by in a short few years of the upper planetary systems, the time they spent there. They came back, everything was different. People had become smaller, ages had changed. You see. Muchukundu, that happened to him. So these type of things that are there in the Vedas, they may be very astonishing for the modern readers to read, almost sound like a type of science fiction. You see, truth is stranger than fact. What the actual truth is very easy to understand if one wants to go into it. What is the relation between different planets? The science fiction writers, they're agitating the people's mind with so many ideas. But they always take what we know today and they just add a little bit of color to it and try to make it a little more fantastic. You see. As one goes into the higher planetary, higher realms of existence, one doesn't have to use all these gross machines. People are driving along with their petroleum and kerosene and hydrogen projected rockets. Why do you think they don't have more subtle machines and more subtle situations in higher existence? They're able to control mind and control matter by subtle vibrations known as mantras. And they fight wars with mantras and with these vibrations. And these vibrations and various austerities by the warriors are able to create victory or defeat for their opponent. And in doing this, then some are taking shelter of the Supreme Lord and some are taking shelter of various demigods. Some are taking shelter of their austerities like this. Things are going on. And there's different struggle between good and bad forces in the universe. But see, the devotees of Krishna, they're beyond this good and bad. Prabhupada one day were riding out to Mayapur, maybe it was from Mayapur, and there was Krishna Balaram. He said, in this world, in this universe, sometimes the good is there, sometimes the bad. Sometimes the good is defeating the bad, sometimes the evil is defeating the good. This struggle is always going on. The Krishna Balaram, they're neutral. They're neither for the good or for the bad, because both the good and bad have taken an independent position for them. So according to their karma, according to their situation, Krishna Balaram, sometimes he allows the evil to overcome. Evil simply means that they want to enjoy without any consideration of others, without any consideration of Krishna. And the good means, all right, they want to also enjoy, but in some consideration of what ultimately Krishna wants. So therefore the other living entities are protected. But actually Krishna Balaram, he's giving them the results because the evil are exploiting, they're getting more bad karma, therefore they're quickly defeated. Because the good are more subordinate to Krishna, they are protected by that subordination to Krishna. But then Prabhupada explained that the devotees, just like Krishna Balaram, they're neither for the good or for the evil. They're also aloof. They're also transcendental. You see. So, in advancing in spiritual life, ultimately one has to get rid of this enjoying mood. Bhaktaram jagatapasang sarvaloka maheshwaram. The only enjoyer of all austerities, all sacrifices, all activities is the Lord of the whole universe, is Krishna. Gatamang shanting richati. He's the well-wisher of everyone. Suhridang sarva bhutanam. He said, I am the well-wisher of all living entities. Sarva bhutanam. That means evil as well as good. Krishna said, Prabhupada said, you don't know how difficult Krishna's position is. The thief is praying that God, today allow me to go out and break in the house and steal the gold and get out without being caught by the police. You see? And the householder is praying, God, please help me that I won't be robbed by any thief. Then who does he listen to? The deer is praying that God, please protect me, I don't get eaten by a tiger. And the tiger is praying, I'm hungry, God, give me some food, I want to eat a deer. Right? So his position is very critical. So naturally he has to take the side, to some extent, of the people who are who are asking for protection. At the same time, the tiger has to eat, for instance. So, what he does is, the tiger, because his is a more violent and existence, they have to go hungry for a long time. Sometimes they don't eat for 1 week, 10 days, 2 weeks. And along with the tiger, he has to give the tiger a chance to eat also. So what he does is there's a small animal, some type of rodent, that always follows, like a raccoon or something, but very fast. It follows along with the tiger. And wherever the tiger goes, just when it's about to jump on the deer or other animal waiting at the water hole or something, that little like guinea pig goes out, makes a squeaking noise. It has a very high sound. And then at that time, if that deer that's the only warning Krishna is giving. That animal is so small that the tiger can't get it. He'd like to just cream it. But it goes right into little holes and into the butt. It can't get that animal. And if the deer is a little smart, what's that? He'll take off. The tiger won't get him. But if he's a little spaced out, little negligent, careless, and think, I'm thirsty, let me drink this water, that will be the last drink. At that time the tiger knows this is the last chance. He jumps. Just a split second chance is given. Prabhupada also gave, just like the mosquito. Mosquito's only business is suck your blood. And everyone's praying that, God, please don't have me bit by these terrible mosquitoes. Right? So what to do? Both creatures are there. So the first thing is always the mosquito. It's just that by the ear it comes. That's giving you the warning. Here I am. This is Krishna's favor to you. You know that, all right, they're there. You have to take the precaution now. Put on your off or whatever mosquito net. So in the material world, because ultimately everyone is working more or less for their own enjoyment, therefore Krishna has to take the neutral position. But the pure devotee, he's given up all personal consideration. That Lord Krishna, I am simply surrendered unto you. Now I don't want to do anything that's simply for my own selfish interest. Because I know that simply any selfish act I do, any particularly materially motivated act, is actually not my self-interest. I'll simply be bound by the reaction to that. Cause and effect. Whatever act I do, I'll simply get the reaction. So I want to not do anything that is not pleasing to you. I know whatever will be pleasing to you will also be for my best self-interest. So Krishna doesn't want that people should be unhappy in any way. Rather, he wants their complete happiness. We don't know how to be happy in this material world, because we don't know all the stringent laws. We try in one way to be happy, we transgress certain subtle laws, again we are crushed. You see, according to how we act, we have to reap. As you sow, so shall you reap. Same is there in the Bible as in the Vedas. Law of karma is described. Was it eye for eye, tooth for a tooth? It's simply that the Christians don't even believe what the Bible says, A lot of them. That's the unfortunate thing. If you really went into the Bible, you would find that 90% of it is already covered in the Vedas. 10% of it might be some misinterpretation that was put in all the translations of the Bible. And of course the Vedas have an unlimited greater source of knowledge, being voluminous works that are the origin of all religions of the world, that are either the oldest. So, just as we say, as you sow, so shall you reap. Law of karma is there, that exactly whatever you do, you have to accept the reaction for that, in this life or in a future life. How you lead your life, that will dictate how you desire, that will dictate what future birth you'll get. If you're fully dedicated to go back to God, you go back to Him. You don't have to take birth again. You go back to His spiritual kingdom. There one has to, therefore, in this life train. One has to train oneself to be Krishna conscious, to be God conscious, to be in harmony with Krishna. Then one is happy. In one's family life, one should raise children to be Krishna conscious. If you raise the children to be something else, then you can't expect that you will be relieved of the responsibility for the material activities. If one eats food offered to Krishna, there's no reaction. If you eat food for your own sense gratification, then you're responsible. So, here Mother Yasoda is feeling, of course she never did anything in her whole existence which wasn't directly for Krishna. Because she is so fortunate she had Krishna as her son, and she did everything for her son. You see, that's a perfection. Is that as a result of serving Krishna in this world, we can get Krishna as our friend or as our son, and that time, by a higher type of maya, called yoga maya, we think that Krishna is my best friend. Therefore we do everything for our best friend. Or we think Krishna is my son or my master, and we do everything for his interest, even having a direct relationship that we can relate with. So it makes it so much more perfect and intimate. We're having a personal relationship. Seeing Krishna as my lover, as my son, is my friend, or is my master, or is the object of my worship. So in this way, everything becomes very spontaneous and perfect. So even in this material world, what we approach Krishna, He's my master. And we act in that way, that this whole world is Krishna's, nothing is ours. Even a devotee tries to make progress, there are so many subtle attachments which again can come back and delude us. One may think that let me get some quick money by doing some illegal deal. You see. That making money by any illegal means is another type of subtle illusion. Even a person's intention, I want to serve Krishna, give me money for Krishna, I'll do something illegal, make some quick money. You see, then one again is getting subtly, these are all type of unwanted anarthas. One gets entangled again. One should just straightforwardly deal. Sometimes devotees, they try to become devotees, they go out and try to do something illegal and they get in difficulty. Because Krishna doesn't want. One can ultimately get more material success than what one's karma is. Or than what Krishna wants. If one tries by illegal method, this, that, there's no shortcuts. Ultimately one would get, even by doing a legal thing, if one is supposed to get, in terms of Krishna. And then if you do something illegal, then it becomes a whole gamble. Instead of thinking of Krishna, one's always thinking whether I'll get caught, whether I'll succeed, this, that. And it becomes a whole type of gambling, whole type of fruitive activity. Even though it's supposed to ultimately be for Krishna, Krishna doesn't want that. There's enough anxiety even in directly doing Krishna's service for the neophyte. That if it's directly required by Krishna is purifying. When one starts to do without any authorization of the Guru, then it becomes more and more precarious. So how to train oneself to become subordinate to Krishna? There are many ways given. So the first thing is one should train oneself to be subordinate to Krishna by being submissive to the spiritual master. That one realizes my own mind, my own intelligence is not sufficient to reach me to Krishna. I need the guidance of someone who's already in touch with Krishna through the disciplic succession. Tat vidhi pratipatena pratipasnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam ganivas tattvadarshina. That I should approach him, ask questions, serve, then ask questions, surrender. In this way I can understand the truth. Unless one is going to accept everything that the spiritual master says as the advice of Krishna and follow it submissively, there's no need of having a spiritual master. When one contemplates taking initiation, then one should already be at the stage that they have complete faith that whatever the spiritual master advises me will be to my ultimate welfare. And that is as good as Krishna giving me advice. Because the spiritual master is directly in touch with Krishna through the disciplic succession. He knows what is the truth. Therefore, whatever he advises, I should simply do it. So this is a very, of course, someone will say, well, that seems to be too much. Who can accept such a... So then don't take initiation. Prabhupada never said that to stay in our movement one has to take initiation. No, you can stay, chant Hare Krishna in the movement or in your house without taking initiation. But when one takes initiation, that means that, all right, now I am taking spiritual master so I can go back to Godhead. Never mind being a pure devotee. Pure devotee is so exalted we can't think of being a pure devotee. Simply following with absolute faith the order of Guru. Pure devotee means we don't even think not to follow Krishna. Our mind doesn't even think of enjoying material life. If the mind comes up with an idea, we reject it immediately. The mind is so trained, or it's completely purified, doesn't even think at all. Anything that's not in devotional service. Even if our mind is rebelling, even if our mind is pulling at the bridle to go here and there and follow the senses, even if we're not pure, but we take spiritual master that he guides us, what is good for us? What if we take poison? Then because we desire to know, I'll take poison anyway. Then what's the use of taking Guru? Taking a spiritual master. Spiritual master means that he's responsible. Before Krishna, he's taken responsibility. I'll guide this disciple to go back to Godhead, to go back to you. And the disciples also promised to Krishna that now I'm accepting this spiritual master to guide me to go back to you. Whatever he says, I'm accepting as good as you saying. Whatever service I'm doing to him, you should kindly accept it as service unto you. And if one has spiritual masters not willing to follow the instructions, not willing to serve, not willing to accept, then where's the protection? Then there's no protection. Spiritual master means completely safe. Completely safe, free of any anxiety. Without spiritual master, one's always in anxiety. What to do? What to do next? Will this be for my good? Will this bring the thing I want? When one has spiritual master, there's no anxiety. He knows what is good, what is not good. So certainly, a tremendous amount of confidence has to be built up before one accepts a spiritual master. Shouldn't it all be done whimsically? Generally, someone may meet many people who will help one along the way, who guide one. The first person one meets is known as and who directs one to Krishna consciousness, is also known as the spiritual master who shows the way. Then there's spiritual masters who guide one, who give one absolute instructions. They are known as instructing spiritual masters. And then one who is consistently giving good instruction, generally that person is accepted as one's initiating spiritual master, because he's already shown, that spiritual master has already shown through practical instruction and association that not only does he have the sincere desire of the disciple in heart, that a mother and father may also have the sincere desire. They may not know the truth, but also he knows the truth. He knows how to lead the disciple out of the material illusion. And the disciple, by following those instructions, can practically see. So we have to give up the enjoying mood. This means that doesn't mean that people become effeminate. But rather, there's a different type of attitude. Rather than becoming simply selfishly, sensuously motivated, one becomes spiritually motivated. Whether one's personality may be of any frame. The personality may be of any particular nature. But the ultimate objective becomes put in such a focus that one simply takes on a surrendered attitude to Krishna. And as soon as one takes the shelter of Krishna, he protects one from these reactions of karma. One can immediately feel relief. And when one is still maintaining that independent mood, separatist mood, that means the devotional service either in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, one won't feel that relief. There'll be always some anxiety. They'll wonder why I'm not being satisfied by my devotional service. Because they haven't surrendered. Although they're performing some devotional service, which they get credit for, it's mixed with mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. Sometimes people come to Krishna to get money. Sometimes they come there in distress. They want to get relief from their problems. Sometimes they approach Krishna, they're inquisitive. Even sometimes people come as policemen come, they're inquisitive to find out what's going on here. Is there any illegal activity going on? Some of those policemen who've come and lived in the temple, they became so happy by being with the devotees. Later on, they also became devotees. Of course, that is often, they don't actually listen. So sometimes if they actually listen and take the association, their heart can also be changed. But if they put on the show and don't actually listen, this is quite a dangerous arrangement here. Yeah. You see. Then it's difficult for them, if they don't actually hear, give their mind to listen, to hear. The whole basis of Krishna consciousness is one will feel satisfied, feel happy. Then one can know that the process is working. Just like if one's sick, you take the medicine, you'll feel relief. We are all sick in the material world because we're all trying to imitate the Supreme Lord by lording it over the material nature. When we change our mental attitude and we take a serving attitude, how to serve others through serving Krishna, how to serve the material nature by engaging the material nature in the service, ultimately everything is directed to the service and pleasure of Krishna. Then one feels satisfied because that's our natural position. We're part of God. We're supposed to serve the whole. Just like this hand is part of the body, it serves the whole body. It's very natural. Doesn't require personality change. Requires doesn't even require much adjustment. Simply a slight adjustment is needed in our attitude, our outlook. Instead of seeing the world as here's the domain for me now to enjoy and lord it over, we see that here is the field of my activities. This is the field that I can now use all these energies that are also Krishna's energies in His service, and they are via media for me to go back to God, to go back to the spiritual world. If I try to enjoy them, I'll become entangled. If I try to utilize them in the service of Krishna, I'll become liberated. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Are there any questions? Yes?
When a living entity falls from the spiritual world, is this first body human? So he gets a chance right away to go back?
Sometimes they come as first body as a Brahma. Human is the first birth that you get a chance to go back. The Brahma at the end of the universe can go right back, unless he becomes materialistic. Then from Brahma they can work their way down to a bug, or one can be as a human. That will depend. It's not no one can say, there's not any, you'll find some different evidences in the Vedas. Coming as a Brahma or coming as a human. That's not, that may vary from case to case. We found that Jai Bijai, they came as demons. Each person, why they're here, why? No one can say exactly. Everyone is an individual eternally. And the only way we'll know the exact reason how we got in this material world is when we ultimately again get our liberation. This is like a dreaming state. Right now we're locked into the dream. And the whole endeavor is to get out of the dream, to wake up. So once it's just like someone is in a coma. And in a coma he's dreaming so many things. And then in that dream he's going from one dream and then he jumps out and goes to another dream until finally he can remember. Someone comes out and says, Harry. And then he comes out of it and says, wow, where am I, right? Where was I? It's like that once you come out of this material and you come back to your original Krishna consciousness, it'll be like you think, I did all those things. I was an animal and a man, and I forgot completely about Krishna and about my eternal spiritual nature. And it's just like a dream. Then you're just, but you never go asleep again. You don't ever want to go asleep. You don't ever want to come in the material world again. The thing one has to want to wake up. So that's why the spiritual masters are so kind. Even a person is sleeping who doesn't want to wake up, they're calling, Jeev Jago, wake up, wake up. You're not this body. You're eternal spirit soul. And the soul has heard so many things in its life. You're an American. You're a Bohemian. you're a hippie, you're a conservative, you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, this, that, and never even it doesn't even come near to waking up the soul. It's just different. It's just trying to change the structure of your dream. But when that pure devotee says, no, you're the eternal servant of Krishna, you're not this body, then immediately the soul starts. It's the first time anything that was said actually is directed at the soul and starts to move, it starts to wake up. And then the soul starts to direct the intelligence. What is that? What's he saying? It's a shocking, the first time one hears or sees a devotee, it may even come as an intense shock. Because at the first time, when the devotee is saying, going right to the soul, they don't even speak to the body and the mind. They're going right to the soul. Because the soul can exert its influence and can control over the mind and the body. But it has to be awakened. It has to actually come from the soul to act in its original constitutional position. So how we fell in this material world, exactly what we were before, when we wake up, when we realize our original position, then we can remember all these things. So it's not always a stereotype. We may come first as a Brahma and work our way down. It may come in so many ways. What we were before we came, what was our relationship with Krishna, what was our position, how we fell down, what desire we had. These are different in every case. Yes?
Isn't it when any living entity gets prashadam, they're guaranteed healing or next life? Like I've heard some people say that it is, that's why prashadam Krishna is so important. And then I've heard other people say, well, they have, like, if humans get prashadam, they have the right to decide, okay, I'm going to, but sometimes they don't know they're getting prashadam, so how is it?
When we say you take prasadam, you get human birth. Some people got prasadam and got liberated. So in describing the glories of prasadam, it's Krishna prasad, you can't put a limit on it. Some people, by just chanting Hare Krishna once, they got liberation, like Ajamil. So they said, but simply by chanting Hare Krishna, more sinful reactions of karma are eradicated than what one can commit. Yet at the same time, someone may chant Hare Krishna for 1,000, and then not actually go back to Krishna. How is that possible? So the thing is that one's not supposed to doubt that by chanting Hare Krishna, this effect has come. That means potentially it may come for anyone. But then each person's situation being different, that a person, if he's very offensive, even they chant Hare Krishna, take prasadam, and they offend devotees, because of those offenses, Krishna, he may just withhold his mercy. An offense being directly, offense and sinful reaction is different. A person may be the most sinful, maybe a murderer, maybe a rapist, but that's all in the material platform. That's in relation to other people's material bodies. It's not in relation to God. So the reaction they have to get is also material. They'll have to suffer materially for whatever suffering they're committing on their body and to others' bodies. But when an offense means directly in relation with God or those who are directly in relation to Him, His pure devotees. So therefore, what the most overpowering thing about everything is Krishna's mercy. That mercy can destroy all the material reactions and just give one a clean slate and bring one back to Godhead. But if one is directly opposing God, even that He can forgive. But sometimes if you directly offend His devotees, then Krishna, that's so disapproved by Him that then He may withhold His mercy to that person until he gets out of the habit of offending his devotees or offending whatever offense he's committing. So in that way, if a person is offenseless, then by taking prasad, one may even be liberated. One may even achieve Krishna consciousness. Depending on the offenses, the lack of offenses, and so many conditions, one is delivered. One may be sincerely trying to find the truth, or just sincerely, just ordinary material, innocent person, not very inimical to God, but just trying to enjoy his senses, trying to enjoy the senses and be happy, was misled, wandering here and there, trying to enjoy in different ways, and not succeeding, gets association with devotees, they give prasad, they give spiritual advice, the person starts to chant, and then automatically they feel immediately advancement. Another person may have been very inimical to the devotees. As a result, the effect may be reduced. This offense is the most dangerous thing. Next dangerous is, of course, bad habits and all that, after we've chanted. Once one takes up seriously the chanting, one should try to avoid as far as possible unauthorized activities, because they will delay one's progress. So by taking prasad, that ultimately that person, they can be guaranteed a human birth, but there may be an exception if he's exceptionally offensive to devotees. In general, one will be guaranteed at least a human birth, and one may even get a greater benefit by taking prasad. If he takes prasad, the person is purified of all reactions, says and offenses, or takes prasad, he's purified. But then again, the next minute again, he takes more. He does more karmas, more work that he has to take the reaction for. So because of those reactions, they have to take birth, so at least they get a human birth. But if after taking prasad they didn't perform any more materialistic activities, then they could go back to Godhead.
So these animals that we feed prasad to, they're like pretty lucky, because they're not committing offenses, because they're just...
So they're animals, so then they can become human beings. At least, you see. And one animal, that dog, Shivanathan gave prasad to one dog, it went back to Godhead. It's all its karma was finished. It didn't have to be a man or a human or a dog, it just went right back to its original spiritual position. Yes?
Do you know what is the reason why one is caring for Tulsi Devi, why you shouldn't pick her niece and Manjara's on Dwadasi? I've read quotes from Prabhupada where he said that in several places, but I was just curious what the reason for that was.
I'm writing a book now, which is including a new Archana Padati, so anything you want to know, like any other question, just write it down, write it to me in a letter. While I'm in States, you can write it to Atlanta, or just give it to me. Otherwise, write it to me in Calcutta. Any questions like that? I'm going to be putting a basic story about the history of Tulsi and some of these things, because these are regular questions. Anything else? Jai Nithai Gaura Chandra ki
Jai! Shri Jayapataka ki Jai!
What's your name again?
Scott.
Scott. Do you have any questions, Scott?